The collapse of Bashar al-Assad's regime marked the end of a tumultuous era in Syria's history. For decades, the Assad family ruled with an iron fist, portraying an image of resilience and strength while concealing layers of corruption, decadence, and betrayal. When the regime finally crumbled under the weight of civil war, foreign intervention, and economic ruin, it exposed a trove of secrets about the family's personal lives and the vast empire they had constructed in their bid to maintain absolute power. Bashar al-Assad, initially a mild-mannered ophthalmologist, seemed an unlikely candidate to lead one of the most repressive regimes in the Middle East. However, the sudden death of his elder brother, Bassel, in a car accident in 1994 thrust him into the spotlight. Groomed by his father, Hafez al-Assad, Bashar quickly adopted the hardline policies that defined the Assad Dynasty. Upon Hafez's death in 2000, Bashar assumed power, promising reforms and modernization. Yet, the hopes for change were swiftly dashed as the young leader resorted to authoritarian tactics to consolidate his rule. The Assad regime maintained control through a brutal security apparatus, tight media censorship, and pervasive surveillance. Key to their grip on power was the Assad family's alliance with Syria's business elite and the country's minority Alawite community, which they cultivated as a loyal base. However, behind the scenes, cracks began to form in the facade of unity and strength that the family portrayed. The Syrian civil war, which began in 2011 as a wave of peaceful protests during the Arab Spring, was the catalyst for the regime's eventual downfall. The government's violent crackdown on demonstrators quickly escalated into a multifaceted conflict involving opposition groups, Islamist factions, and foreign powers. By the late 2010s, the regime was reeling under immense pressure, relying heavily on Russian and Iranian military support to maintain control over key territories. Years of war devastated the Syrian economy and infrastructure, creating one of the worst humanitarian crises in modern history. Cities lay in ruins, millions were displaced, and the Assad regime's hold on power grew increasingly tenuous. Public resentment boiled over as ordinary Syrians grappled with poverty, displacement, and the daily terror of airstrikes and chemical attacks. The turning point came in 2024, when Damascus, the regime's stronghold, fell to a coalition of opposition forces and international allies. Aided by intelligence leaks and defections from within Assad's inner circle, the coalition systematically dismantled the regime's military and political networks. Bashar al-Assad and his immediate family fled the presidential palace in the dead of night, leaving behind a city in chaos. In the aftermath, investigators discovered vast troves of documents detailing the regime's darkest secrets. Hidden chambers within the palace revealed evidence of torture, secret dealings with foreign powers, and the siphoning of billions of dollars into offshore accounts. The disclosures painted a damning picture of a regime that had prioritized its survival and opulence over the welfare of its people. Among the most shocking revelations were the luxurious lifestyles of the Assad family and their inner circle. While ordinary Syrians endured starvation and bombings, the Assads lived in unparalleled extravagance. Their palaces were adorned with gold-plated fixtures, imported Italian marble, and rare art collections worth millions of dollars. Investigators found closets filled with designer clothing and jewelry, including items that belonged to Asma al-Assad, Bashar's British-born wife, who had styled herself as Syria's First Lady of Elegance. Asma's carefully curated public image as a humanitarian and modernizer unraveled in the face of these discoveries. Emails retrieved from her private accounts revealed her obsession with luxury goods, including high-end furniture, couture fashion, and accessories from top European designers. Her correspondence with international suppliers continued unabated even as the war raged, exposing a staggering disconnect from the suffering of ordinary Syrians. The fall of the regime also brought to light deep rifts within the Assad family. While Bashar and Asma projected an image of unity, insiders disclosed that their marriage had been strained for years. Asma's increasing involvement in state affairs reportedly clashed with the traditionalist views of Bashar's mother, Anissa Maklauf, who wielded considerable influence behind the scenes. The family's power struggles extended to Bashar's cousins and siblings, who had carved out their own fiefdoms within the regime. Rami Maklauf, Bashar's cousin and one of Syria's wealthiest businessmen, had long been accused of using his connections to amass a vast fortune. When the regime faced financial collapse, Maklauf's refusal to part with his wealth led to a public feud with Bashar, further undermining the regime's credibility. Defections from the family also played a key role in the regime's unraveling. al-Assad, Bashar's younger brother and commander of the elite Republican Guard, reportedly fled the country after a fallout with Bashar over military strategy. Other high-ranking officials followed suit, providing valuable intelligence to opposition forces and accelerating the regime's downfall. While the revelations of the Assad family's decadence and corruption garnered international attention, the human cost of their rule was perhaps the most harrowing aspect of the regime's legacy. Over 500,000 Syrians were killed during the civil war, with countless more injured or traumatized. Entire generations were lost to displacement and destruction. Evidence uncovered in the regime's archives confirmed widespread use of torture, extrajudicial killings, and chemical weapons against civilians. Mass graves were discovered in areas previously under government control, offering grim testimony to the scale of the atrocities committed in the name of preserving the Assad Dynasty. In the wake of the regime's collapse, international efforts to bring the Assad family to justice intensified. The International Criminal Court, ICC, issued arrest warrants for Bashar al-Assad and key members of his inner circle on charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity. However, tracking down the fugitives proved challenging, as reports suggested they had fled to Russia, Iran, or other sympathetic nations. Meanwhile, Syria's post-Assad government faced the monumental task of rebuilding a fractured nation. Transitional authorities pledged to hold former regime officials accountable while focusing on reconciliation and reconstruction. Yet, the scars of decades of authoritarian rule and years of war would take generations to heal. The downfall of the Assad regime serves as a stark reminder of the perils of unchecked power and the human cost of authoritarianism. For decades, the Assad family ruled Syria as their personal fiefdom, enriching themselves at the expense of their people and silencing dissent with ruthless efficiency. Their eventual collapse exposed not only the fragility of their regime but also the resilience of those who dared to oppose them. As Syria embarks on a new chapter, the lessons of the Assad era loom large. The challenge of rebuilding a nation shattered by war and tyranny will require courage, unity, and a commitment to justice. Only by confronting the past and holding its architects accountable can Syria hope to forge a brighter future, one where the voices of its people are heard and respected, and the dark legacy of the Assads is consigned to history.